is day 1580 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. This week's Arukh HaShulchan Yomi is sponsored by Yonasan Ezra and Chana Feiga for Schus V'Atzlacha in Parnasa and Shiduchim, and he should have tremendous success in Siyata Dishmaya. Today we're doing Yeridea, Siman Shin Chav Beis, Sif Yud to Tez Zayin. Yud. Tuas Chutzar Shenichnasu L'Eretz Yisrael, L'Eretz. If you have grain for Chutzar, so I went to Eretz Yisrael. When most Jews live in Israel. And in the contrary, grain from Eretz Yisrael, but Chutzar also made from them. Chutzar exempt me the Rice. That which I'm bringing you there. Shamatem chayavim. There Etzor chaybein betfulas Eretz Yisrael and betfulas chutzarts, whether it's produce from Etzor betfulas chutzarts. Chiyuv challah b'shas gilgul. The obligation of challah comes when you roll the dough. Chayin tolev makom she'isa na'aseh. Therefore, has to do with where the dough is made. Lo makom she'atful gedela, not to the place where the grain grows. V'isa yesh lomar gan ke'etam she'chashishu l'chiyuv challah yesim and l'chumasu ma'isros. It could be that this is the reason why they were more concerned with Chiyuv Challah, they imposed in the Chutzarts, as opposed to Chiyuv Trumas and Maisus. Mishum the Melech say Chovas Haguf, because it looks like an obligation on the person. Lo Chovas Karka, not an obligation on the land. Became a chain told him because it doesn't have to do with where the grain grows, but rather where you're making the dough. If you being Challah from Chutzarts, so you don't bring Challah from Chutzarts or Yisrael. Just like you don't bring Truma and Bikurim from Chutzarts Eretz Yisrael. Chutzarts Avir Mitami, because Chutzarts its airspace is Mitami. If you brought it, leave it at Arpesa, Tisarif Truma is burnt like Truma before it becomes Asr. Tlachla Asr, the eater is forbidden Shetmeahi because it's Tomei. So for the head, Yavi was to burn outright is considered to be degradation. There, if we wait to Arpesa, serving Truma Shuchametz, and he burn also. Which is chametz. Anyway, you have Shana Chalam Mishnah. The Chalam tells the Mishnah Perek Dal Mishnah Ches. I'm going to make sure it's a challah. The three lines of challah. Meretz Yisrael by Ksiv Challah Achas. From Meretz Yisrael up to Ksiv in the north, you take one challah. Ksiv Avanor Amanah, Avanor Amanah from Ksiv until the river Euphrates and Amanah, which is in Lebanon. Two chalas. Achas v'achas kohen. One goes to the fire, one goes to the kohen. Or yesh l'shir. One which goes to the fire has a specific measure. V'shel kohen and l'shir. One which goes to the kohen has no measure. Minahar v'amanah v'lifnim. From the nahar and amanah and beyond. Shei chalos. The two chalos. Achas or v'achas kohen. One goes to the fire, one goes to the kohen. Shel or and l'shir. The one which goes to the fire has no shir. Shel kohen yesh l'shir. The one which goes to the kohen has a measure. Ayin sham. What does this mean? So the Chaim were very concerned so that the halacha of challah should not be forgotten from Israel. Therefore, they decided to fortify it as much as possible. That the challah should be as similar to the Raisa, which has the halacha, sheni tas the kohen v'chachla, which is that it's given to the kohen and he eats it. Which basically is conquered not just by when they left Egypt, but when they came back from Bavel. This is absolute Eretz. So you said it's like one challah. Notice the coin, you give it to the coin, kedin Torah as the Torah requires. And this is where we say the measure of a Baalbais is the 124th and a baker is 148. When we see about Norva and Amanah from Ksiv until the river to Amanah Shumakam Shkov Shalei Mitzrayim, is based by the people who, when they came out of Egypt, by Rishon, not by Sheni. It's not counted by Sheni. Kedusha Rishon low Kitchelas level, and the initial Kedusha time level Egypt did not make it permanently Kadosh. V'itmeak Eretz Amim, and it is Tamei like Chutzarts. Ve'im Becholes lechol challah. You're not allowed to eat the challah there. So you have to burn it. They shleim marina challah nisraves v'atuma ein for semes. So the people shouldn't say, well, we saw challah burnt. And the Tumah is not necessarily well known that there were goes there Tumah and Eretz Hamim that they created over at the Chutzah should be considered Tamei. Never they decided you have set aside a separate challah for the coin, and the coin can eat it. Because the primary challah is the first challah. But shir has a measure. Hashem ain't no shir. And the second challah has no shir. And mishum but for them beyond. Find a kol chutzlars, the rest of chutzlars. Came and we can't ikar the rabbanon since there it's primarily the rabbanon. For law there was never a Torah obligation. They also made two chalos, one for the fire, one for the coin. And that's to be burnt because it's tummy. No more which goes to coin is not or not forget the concept of challah. Since they're both rabbanim, mutav la'arbos ne'acholos. It's about we're always rabbanim, even in times of ice rishon. No, I'm sorry. That's the wrong thing. Since always rabbanim, even time by ice rishon, there was no kedusha there. It's always chutzlaretz. It's better to be give more for the eaten challah. In a shear, the one which goes to fire has no measure. Shakoin yesh a shear. The one which goes to coin has a shear, which is echel memches 1/48, even from a baal bais. You'd base close to sub is man chachmei hashas. That was time of the Gemara. Shoy said Tara be'eretz Yisrael came to Tumas Meis, where in Eretz Yisrael there was still Tara even from Tumas Meis. Vishoelem efa para because they had still the ashes of the paraduma that was beyond the destruction base of Mikdash for decades. I don't think centuries, but decades. Avlashu gam be'eretz Yisrael kulam tamein Tumas Meis, but in Eretz Yisrael now everybody's actually I think maybe it was centuries. Anyway, now in Eretz Yisrael everybody's Tamei Tumas Meis as well. Even today in Eretz Yisrael, also you can't eat challah. So you set aside 1/48. But starving and you burn it. The coin never you don't set aside second challah for the coin. Like they did in Chutz La'aretz. Because that takana never existed there. But in other places, it would seem at least the Palestine previous law was intact. So that's a Rambam. That's the Rambam. That's how Rosh, according to the Rosh, compared to Sod, Tzarech Chalos. It's not as even as Yisrael quite do Chalos. Because we revert to the name Chutzor. It's because what Taisus, it's a Taisus wrote. You'll give him ain't show. You can ask, Lama B'chala, Tiknu Shtei Chalos, why did they make this Takara by Chala? Not by Truma at the time of the Gemara. When they would still set aside Truma in places which are adjacent to like Syria and Bavel. Asked this question. The Tiratan answers the Chala. Challah, there's nothing which comes after challah. It's the last gift given from your food process. But by truma, there are other tithes to be taken. Trumas meiser meiser. Truma is going to take over second truma. Nim says hashniya tefula meiser. So the second one, second truma you take off, it really has to have meiser taken off of it, because truma is parted from meiser because it's truma. But a second truma, which Rabbanan would impose, would really be mikadin chayiv and meisers. Shari Mehmet saying Truma, because not really Truma. It's going to come to a stumbling block. The Sabi Truma is going to think it's Truma. V'loya Frishu, they're going to think it's Truma. V'loya Frishu, Mimenu, Trumaiser, they're not going to take a Meiser. If you look at Truma, says to make two Trumas. But Taisus, B'cheres, Kosatam Macher. Taisus, Chala is more of a concern, it's going to be getting forgotten over time. The Shaykh B'choladam. It's relevant to any person. It's only by people who possess land. I'm astonished, says Roshon, why does this not be on Ushami? And it's reason Kitam Boro, because it's a clear reason. It's unclear why it doesn't, but it could be, as we know, not all the Yerushalayim had access to all the Yerushalmi. It could be the places in Bukhariz did not have access to Yerushalmi. You doubt, perhaps Roshon knows from places Bukhariz citing other places Yerushalmi that did have a Yerushalmi challah. I don't know. According to that which you explained, even we in Chutz La'aretz should now set aside two chalos. One for the fire, one for the kohen. Never heard anybody does this. From the B'Sari Shayim and Rosh B'Ilchos Chala, Rashi Perish Mishnah, Rosh B'Ilchos Chala with Simon Yud Yudal, the Rashi Perish Mishnah, Perek Dal Mishnah Ches, Tes Chulin, Taf Kuf Dal, Chen Esmag Bas, the same mitzvah Kuf Mamav. They all I had this question. How come we don't do Bisman Hazeh? Zeh Rosh. This is the Russian language. I'm astonished. Most places in Germany, they don't set aside a second challah. V'yesh retain time. We can give a reason. In the days of Amoraim, they ate Truma Torah in Eretz Yisrael. Kill Efer Parah. He says clearly talking about Amoraim, which is centuries after the Shakshi Beis Hamikdash. But nowadays, ain't Chal in Eretz Yisrael. Now Chal is not in Eretz Yisrael. Abchutzor ain't Tzarich Labish Chalas Kohen. Because everything is on the account of Eretz Yisrael. Now in Eretz Yisrael, they don't do it. They can't eat it. So in Eretz Yisrael, the Kohen can't eat it. So therefore, Chutzor has no reason to set aside Challah for the Kohen. The Bahag writes the same thing. Challah Eretz Yisrael, Eim Afrishin, El Achas is serving us Challah today in Eretz Yisrael. The Bahag writes, you only take off one and you burn it. From the rush. For I may bag in El Eretz Yisrael. Okay, that evidence from the Bahag is only in Eretz Yisrael. The rush, but the rush holds me times on this account. Kam Chutzor, you also require Chutzor. Look at Rambam, not like the Rambam. Practice says, if you have a Madani Yantam Sham Begum Kali, and Sham is not sure what the Madani Yantam is saying. Chenkas HaBechulin Perikol Basar, Ayin Sham. Rosh also writes the Suchulin. Tesva. Look at the Rosh Kasar Gam Smag. Rosh Smag is the same thing. But Tesva Bechulin Sham Kasar Vatam Fisha, Tzorach L'Shavah Me'achil Zorim Nimnu Afrish. Tesva gives a different reason, because since you would have to keep the second challah away from non-Kohanim, so therefore people just didn't take it off. Fine, but Rosh Kasak Tam Rosh, Rosh like Rosh, writes like the Rosh. Zesh Kasak Tur. Now what Tur writes Yeshomim. No, that's what the basis of the Tur writing. Yeshomim some say came in Challah Nechos Beretz Yisrael, since Challah is not even today in Eretz Yisrael. Kamashar Makom is 8 Tzorach Lavish Los. In other places don't have it set aside. El Achas only one Usorfa, and you burn it. Akal Shana. End quote. But Sefer Chuma Kasav Atam Kataisis and Sefer Chuma writes like Taisif. Loshana. Because Loshana means Zorim Mikud. You have to preserve it from non-Kohanim and from non-Jews. Sometimes you put the dough in a plate in boiling soup. And a non-Kohen not allowed to eat from this plate. For Rashi, Piskei Chalashlo, Rashi in his Pesukim Hilchos Challah Kasar Sheshama Shadayin Yeshukomis No Gosh Chalos. He writes he's heard a place where they still do two chalos. Abchol Oretz, but all the land, presumably Spain, with Tzarfas and in France, Ein Ogim Elav Chalos, or there's only the challah they put in the fire. And they don't have any measure for that. Rash, and brings the reason given by the Rash, Ayin Sham. Tesai, V'id Rabbeinu, but he says Tivra Godol. But he says he testifies in the base. Yosef Techena Minag Pashut. This is the widespread Minag. Shlol Afish El Chalos Urbi Avad. Only set aside challah for the fire. Ayin Sham. Shulchan Yisrael says Shulchan doesn't mention this. Like on Eretz Yisrael Bavad, perhaps he's referencing only Eretz Yisrael. The Makom Hayab Tzfas, because he lived in Tzfas. Rabbeinu Ramah b'Sov Siman Zeh Kosav B'Zeh the Ramah writes as follows: Yeshin, some say came Chal Nechas B'Zan Zeh Eretz Yisrael. Some say since Chal in our day and age is not eaten in Eretz Yisrael, Gam B'Shar Mekoymes Ein Tzorach Lafrish. Also in other places you don't have to set aside Rak Chal Achas, only one Chal U'Lis Sorfa, and to burn it. Chena Minig Pashin is a widespread custom in all these countries. Ein Mafrishim Rak Chal Achas. You only set aside one Chal below Shir with that, which has no measure. But serving son, you burn it. Just like they did when we used to actually take off two chalas. Shechalas or loyashir, the challah which went to the fire had no measure. Nevertheless, customs take exayis. Somebody eats challah, even if became mevarach tchila ala min shorot. Okay, obviously this we don't do this. First, make a bracha on the min, meaning hamoitzi, hamzoinus. Maybe the bracha, which Kohanim to make they only with birkas Kohanim, he was sanctified out of the sanctity of Aaron. Tzivon le'echol shuma, and come out and see shuma. Yeshim some say shesoven achal osil hesed when you burn chal, you make a fire unto itself. So osil lehanos man, the soil can't derive benefit from this fire. Nogim lashichet nur kodim lashofin apas. Custom is to toss it into the oven before you bake the bread. Akal shalom. Come on, to say eitzer chesed. If In other words, you don't require a separate fire. This avitar is very labor intensive. Since you toss them before you bake the bread, you're not deriving any benefit from it. But the idea is even though later on there's going to be a little bit higher heat, that's not significant. Men Akshev Kazayis Isa, in what respect is a Kazayis of those significant? Larbas Chamimus to enhance the heat, negative Atseya Asakashabatanur, relative to the wood fuel in the oven. Zesh Kasav Shchalas Or Loyal, share that which goes to the challah, which goes to fire, has no share. Zeb Chalas Chutzorts. That's challah Chutzorts, Moshe's bar, as we've seen. And places where which are conquered by the only Mitzrayim, meaning the first base Hamikdash, they should set aside this proper shear, 148, who saw and burn it. Because there was a shear for the challah for the fire. Nevertheless, they don't do this. They go after the majority of the world, they don't have a shear. Interesting. Not supposed to increase the amount that you burn. Mashloitzke bracha challah. That what you mentioned in the bracha when you set aside challah. That's coming up. It seems, however, when he says Shematoya, it says Echel Avish Challah Shnila Titola Kohen. That if today somebody wanted to actually set aside with challah, give it to the Kohen, Mutzar, you permit it because I bracha chilas challah because he wrote bracha on eating challah. Never anybody do this, even the most pious among the generations. And Hashem again tomorrow. Evidently, we will come back to this issue when we get to the end of the Siman.